Hi there, this is Elise Benin, your marketing mentor. And this is the podcast for you if and only if you are ready to leave the feast or famine syndrome behind, and I mean for good. I have a special treat for you today. I'm sharing a replay of the big ideas I shared at the July 2024 office party. That's the live event that has become the centerpiece, actually, of the Simplest Marketing Plan. And the office party is where everyone joins me and my lovely co-host, Bonnie Fanning, monthly for a few big ideas. And then everyone makes new business friends when we do live networking. It's really the perfect combination of learning and doing. And I presented these ideas on the heels of my trip to Europe, where I met up with our Inc. Insights partner, Antonio Mesa. He's the inspirational communication consultant who brings his brain and his artistic talents. And while I'm presenting, he creates a sketch, sometimes more than one, of the big ideas that I share. It's pretty awesome. And in this session, I told the story of how I got lost in Paris, and then I shared a new definition of content marketing and a few new ideas about how to be you in your content marketing, with a shout out to one of my favorite podcast guests, Michael Katz. You can find links for everything on the companion blog post for episode 505 at marketing-mentor.com. But first, listen and learn. All right, welcome, y'all. I'm Elise Benin of marketing-mentor.com, and this is the July 2024 SMP, Simplest Marketing Plan, office party, office hours, office party. And I think people call it a party because it's fun. I promise you will have fun. Even if you hate networking, don't raise your hand if you hate networking. But we will do networking today, and I'm going to share a few ideas. I'm going to share some excellent examples, but I just want to begin by welcoming everyone. And as we always do in the chat, we'll have an opening question, and then we will do a poll, the poll we always do. So the question is, do you have a favorite thing about traveling? Do you have a favorite thing about traveling? I would say the food is my favorite thing about traveling.
My favorite thing is getting back home. We have a couple people coming home. The food, being around different cultures and food, meeting new people, exploring, sightseeing, talking to all the people on the route, avoiding it like the plague. Cynthia.
Awesome. And I've got travel on the mind, and I'm going to talk a little bit about marketing and traveling because, as some of you may know, I was traveling for most of the month of June. And in fact, I went to Paris and visited Antonio, who is with us. Antonio, say something so people can see you.
Hello, everybody. Antonio Mesa here from Mexico, but living in Paris for the past 20 years. I usually participate, and I'm very happy to participate in these office parties. And I do an live illustration of the content that comes from the conversation. So stay tuned and you will watch it a bit later.
Awesome. And I spent some time in Paris with Antonio and his lovely wife, Suzanne, and they took such good care of me. It was kind of amazing, actually, and helped me celebrate my birthday with sparklers and everything. It was a lot of fun. And their lovely daughter, Luce. So thank you, Antonio. I want to thank you publicly for taking such good care of me.
A pleasure.
So I've got travel on the mind, but first, and I will talk a little bit about that, but we have a few things to do first. I want to know if you are ready to make new business friends, especially people who are new to the SMP, what I call the SMP, the Simplest Marketing Plan. Tell us in the chat if you are ready to make new business friends, because that's what this is all about. And that actually was one of the things Antonio kept saying while I was in Paris. It's like, one of the ideas I love about the SMP is this idea of making new business friends. And I think it really does help to think of it that way, because that is what we're here to do. And that's what your clients could become also, is your business friends. Q3, this is Q3, the third quarter of the year, and our focus is content marketing, high quality content marketing, which is one of the tools in the SMP. We'll do a little quiz. What are the other two tools? If you know, put it in the chat, please. Do they know, Bonnie? I'll bet they do.
They do now. We have some correct answers: outreach and networking.
That's right. Strategic networking and targeted outreach and high quality content marketing. When you do these three things together and you connect the dots, that's what works when it comes to marketing. So you can't kind of just do one thing and hope it works. And that's why for every quarter, I focus on something different and try to, over the course of the year, show you how to build your marketing machine so that it works together. So today, because the focus for Q3 is content marketing, I want to specifically talk about how to be you in your content marketing, because I do find that a lot of people are not being themselves in their content marketing, whether it's because they can't figure out how to do that, or they think they have to be another way in their content marketing. And I will go into some detail about what content marketing is and also give you a chance to do that too. All right, so just a few big ideas. The first one, the reason I was talking about traveling earlier, because I was traveling. Whenever I travel, I really do have this sense that marketing is like traveling to a foreign country. Does anyone know what I mean? I will explain, but I really feel like marketing is like traveling to a foreign country, because there are several things you have to embrace that you're not used to. One is that you have to embrace the reality that you're new here and that you don't know how things work, basically. And that's how I felt in all the different countries I was in, even in the places where I spoke the language. I would order something and you think you know what you're getting, but you don't really know what you're getting. And something shows up and you're like, oh, that's what I ordered. Okay. That happened to me with coconut yogurt and coffee. I really couldn't get the right way to order coffee through the whole month, unfortunately. So I just drank whatever they gave me and it was fine. You also have to, I think, even more than embracing the feeling of being new here, you have to embrace the feeling of being lost. And I have to tell you, when I was in Paris, I actually thought about intentionally getting myself lost on public transportation just to feel what it would be like. Hop on a bus and just see where it took me and see how I was going to figure out how to get myself back to where I needed to go. But turns out that wasn't necessary, because I actually did get lost on my way to meet Antonio. In fact, remember that day, Antonio? Oh my God. The thing about that day also is that Verizon, which is my phone service, their roaming services were down. Does anyone remember seeing that in the news? Verizon's international roaming services were down on the day I got lost. So I could not figure out, I had no internet, basically. And so I couldn't use my phone or my GPS. And so I had to embrace the next thing, which is I'm calling the backup plan attitude. Because I think it's one thing, and I did talk about this with Antonio that day. I was like, it's one thing to have a backup plan, and it's another thing entirely to have a backup plan attitude, which means you have to be in the moment when you need it, thinking on your feet and ready to identify resources. And I had to identify, random hotels where I could go in and say, I have no Wi-Fi. Can I use your Wi-Fi? Or I did resort to my paper map. I had a paper map in my, although it was hard to use, actually. I kind of forgot how to use the map. But it just made me think about this attitude that you really have to have when you feel lost in your marketing. And I know a lot of people, especially when they're overwhelmed by all the different things they could be doing or what they're not doing or feeling behind, feel kind of lost. And finally, I do think that marketing is like learning another language. And I was saying this to Bonnie the other day too. the language you have to learn is your client's language. And it is sometimes like a totally other language, even if it is your same language. And some of you may know that I studied Spanish and French in school. That's what my degrees are in. And I haven't really ended up using my language skills, but I actually feel like I am using my language skills when I teach marketing, because you have to learn how to translate your words into a language that your client can understand. And for example, that might mean using their jargon instead of yours. And then when I was in Paris, I was thinking about the fact that, and some of you who speak other languages may recognize this idea. If I wanted to say something in French, I could translate word for word the thing I want to say in English into French. And the people listening to me would probably get the gist of what I was saying. But if I wanted to speak their language, then I would have to listen and learn how to basically express the ideas in their language. And they may have totally different ways of saying something the same or actually something totally different. And so I really do feel also like that's kind of what you have to do when you're marketing your services. You have to express your ideas in a way that your clients can understand. So I'm going to pause right there, Bonnie. And if there's anything in the chat or that you want to say or that Antonio wants to say.
I do want to say one thing, because I do remember that day when you were lost and then we finally found each other.
Yeah.
And one thing is that I hear you saying it, but I also saw you embracing it and embodying it, this attitude, the attitude of, well, I'm lost, but I'm in Paris, and eventually I'll find my way. And there's people that I can ask for help.
Me.
Yeah, and that will help me. And what I'm trying to say is that you had an attitude of, I'll just keep going. I'll just try something else. And if that doesn't work, I will just try something else. And I think in terms of marketing, that's very useful to embrace, because not everything works for everybody, right? Yeah. So you just try something else. And if that doesn't work, you just try something else. And that was really inspiring to see.
Awesome. Thank you for connecting those dots. I appreciate that. And it is something that I have worked at to develop over the years. I wasn't always this way for sure. But I think like, all right, let's try something else, right? As I like to say, your business is a laboratory for your personal growth as well as your professional growth. So just keep experimenting, and something's not working, who cares? Let's just move on to the next thing. All right. So my next big idea is kind of connected, and it's kind of contradictory actually, because at the same time that you have to translate what you're trying to say and sell into a language that your clients will understand, you also have to be you in your marketing. And you have to be you, especially in your content marketing. And I do think that it takes time to develop this language of your own, but you don't want to sound like a robot, and that becomes more literal every day. And this language of your own, I'm thinking of and kind of calling your voice. And I do think that one way to practice developing your voice is through your content marketing. And so before we talk a little bit about what exactly content marketing is, because it's many different things, and I think everyone has a different definition, and I'm going to ask you for your definition, but I would be very curious to know in the chat, how many people feel like they have a handle or the beginning of a handle on what their voice is and are using it in their business? You can describe the voice if you want, but I am very curious. Who has a sense of what their voice is?
I think this is interesting, Elise. Someone says, I've been told I have a voice. And I think that's so common because we often don't hear our own.
Yeah. That's true.
But a lot of people commenting here, a lot of yeses, a lot of getting theirs, some no, not really's, getting comfortable with it, and some definitions. Jim says casual, informal, humorous where appropriate. Janet says clear, direct, and factual. That was authoritatively snarky. I like that.
Yeah, if you're funny, you should definitely bring your humor into your marketing and into your business. Thank you, Bonnie. So now let's talk a little bit about what is content marketing anyway. And before I give you my new definition, actually, I just came up with this today. Tell me what you think content marketing is. If I asked you, what is content marketing? What would you say?
People getting to know you through what you post, education, expressing a message on paper. Content marketing informs, providing resources, using helpful content to build your authority, the use of real world information with a very subtle call to action.
All right, let me give my definitions because they're very similar and there are a few of them. Content marketing is how you stay visible and top of mind, because out of sight is out of mind. I promise they will literally forget about you, and you should not take it personally. People forget about me if I don't stay in touch. People will forget about you if you don't stay in touch. So that's what content marketing is for, actually. Content marketing is also how your network comes to trust you. And it's through the repetition of your content that says, I'm serious and I'm reliable because I keep doing this, right? So just the repetition shows that you're serious and you're reliable. And I think that's what the high quality clients want. Content marketing is also how you share who you are and what you know, especially what you know about what they need. So a lot of people referred to education and tips and informing. That's what I mean by sharing what you know about what they need. And sometimes that relates to their pain points. So it's helpful to know what their pain points are. And AI is super good, actually, at helping you figure out what their pain points are, no matter who they are. And my favorite lately is that content marketing is how you share what you're learning lately. And to me, this is one of the most effective ways to use content marketing because it's new, because it's fresh. And hopefully you are learning something here, today, yesterday, anytime. What are you reading? What are you listening to? What are you watching? And how can you share what you're learning in a way that speaks the language and speaks to the needs of your market? So those are my definitions. And finally, content marketing is basically, in terms of the logistics of it, newsletters, blogs, posts, podcasts, videos, social media, speaking. There are so many content marketing tools. I want you to just, if you haven't already, pick one to start. Don't try to do all the things. You'll get overwhelmed, I promise. Once you've got one in place, you can do the other, do another, and then you keep adding. So now the question is, how can you be you in your content marketing? And so I want to put it to you, y'all, also. What do you think? How can you be you? How does you manifest in your content marketing? Whether in yours, if you can't see it in yours, how do you see it in others? Because I want to share Michael Katz first, who is one of my favorite writers. All right, so this is a newsletter from Michael Katz, and he specializes in newsletters, so he's got a lot of content about newsletters. And this is his issue from June 14th. It's called 3 Ways You Are Better Than AI. And he outlines what I think of as 3 ways you can be you in your content marketing. But I'm just going to quickly highlight the 3 things he says. So basically, he says, things we all need to keep in mind as we create and share content as a means of getting hired as service providers. His focus is professional service providers. He says, you need a point of view. And a point of view is basically taking a position, right? Experts take positions. And as I said yesterday in the Potential Clients on Tap with AI session, an expert doesn't necessarily mean you know everything. Being an expert means you are experimenting and learning through practice about what you do. And through that, you take a position. And so you have a point of view. And I think it's really important to be developing a point of view, right? Some people may disagree with you, but that's how you know you're doing it right. He's talking about someone in particular. Number 2, as I mentioned before, you need a voice, a clear voice. Your authentic personality comes through on every page, on every post. And again, you may not be able to see if it's coming through, but you usually can feel it, or you can get other people to tell you if it's coming through. And finally, stories. And we talk a lot about stories. People talk a lot about stories, especially content marketers. But basically, he says, when you mix stories with the professional information you want to share, not only do you separate yourself from the pack because nobody but you has your stories, but you make the entire thing way more interesting and understandable. So point of view, voice, and stories. That's how you be more you in your marketing. I hope you enjoyed that peek into our office party. And if you want to join us, you are welcome to. The details are all on the homepage at marketing-mentor.com, where I also have a new offer. If you want me to help you find actual clients using AI, check out my new one-on-one AI client finding coaching call. And as always, if you want to build a thriving business on your own terms, the first step is to sign up for my quick tips. And that's at marketing-mentortips.com. Once you're on the site, you'll find lots more resources, including the simplest marketing plan. So enjoy, and I'll see you next time.